Recording 2.1. And so, in early August 1967, the 5 foreign ministers spent 4 days in the relative isolation of a beach resort in Bang Saen, a coastal town less than 100 kilometers southeast of Bangkok. There they negotiated over the document in a decidedly informal manner which they would later delight in describing as sports shirt diplomacy. Yet it was by no means an easy process. Each man brought into the deliberations a historical and political perspective that had no resemblance to that of any of the others. But with goodwill and good humor. As often as they huddled at the negotiating table, they finessed their way through their differences as they lined up their shots on the golf course and traded wisecracks on one another's game. A style of deliberation which would eventually become the ASEAN ministerial tradition. Now, with the rigors of negotiations and the informalities of Bang Saen behind them, with their signatures neatly attached to the ASEAN Declaration, also known as the Bangkok Declaration, it was time for some formalities. The first to speak was the Philippine Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Narciso Ramos, a one-time journalist and long-time legislator who had given up a chance to be Speaker of the Philippine Congress to serve as one of his country's first diplomats. He was then 66 years old and his only son, the future President Fidel V. Ramos, was serving with the Philippine Civic Action Group in embattled Vietnam. He recalled the tediousness of the negotiations that preceded the signing of the declaration that truly taxed the goodwill, the imagination, the patience and understanding of the 5 participating ministers. That ASEAN was established at all in spite of these difficulties, he said, meant that its foundations had been solidly laid. And he impressed it on the audience of diplomats, officials and media people who had witnessed the signing ceremony that a great sense of urgency had prompted the ministers to go through all that trouble. He spoke darkly of the forces that were arrayed against the survival of the countries of Southeast Asia in those uncertain and critical times. The fragmented economies of Southeast Asia, he said, with each country pursuing its own limited objectives and dissipating its meager resources in the overlapping or even conflicting endeavors of sister states, carry the seeds of weakness in their incapacity for growth and their self-perpetuating dependence on the advanced, industrial nations. ASEAN, therefore, could marshal the still untapped potentials of this rich region through more substantial united action.